More now of my conversation in New York with Kellyanne Conway. You are drawing a lot of flack for telling MSNBC's Chris Matthews, talking about a couple of Iraqi refugees in the U.S. who became terrorists, that there had been a Bowling Green Massacre, and it wasn't covered. Of course, there was no Bowling Green Massacre.
There's a plot. But they're masterminds. I had said that before, they're masterminds. I should have said plot, and I should have just called them terrorists. But everybody should look at the ABC News article that I was referring to. That, of course, is trending, top trending article now on ABC News because I mentioned it. It's from 2011 or so, and it talks about these two radicalized Iraqis are part of Al-Qaeda. They bragged about attacking American soldiers. They are, they knew how to make IEDs. So it's a lot of the haters. Listen, it's a lot of the haters. I clarified immediately. I should have said terrorist and not massacre. MSNBC and Chris Matthews show never even asked, never corrected it. I got kudos and accolades for giving that interview. 6 to 18 hours later, they popped up and reared their heads.
So you made a mistake. It happens. It happens to all of us. But when the press makes a mistake,
it happens a lot to the press. I mean, the corrections in these newspapers are 3 paragraphs long. I misspoke one word. The corrections in the newspapers who are attacking me are 3 paragraphs long every day. Corrections, like major corrections.
But should the White House be attacking the press for, quote, fake news on the basis of a mistake that is then corrected?
That is not what the president means when he says fake news on his Twitter. He is talking about things that are invented and not just inaccurate. But look, I'm one of the most pro-press, open, pro-First Amendment people at the White House. Can I just say something? Yeah. It's a lot of women, and that's a shame, because everybody pretends there's some kind of power of the sisterhood. But I'm pro-life, so that's not good for them.
Speaking of women.
I am the first successful female campaign manager. I don't talk about that. I don't brag about that. I feel like it's a blessing, and I thank God every day that Donald Trump gave me that opportunity, and I had a fabulous team that I worked with as equals, and we got the job done on behalf of America.
Chelsea Clinton, addressing you, said, don't make up fake attacks. Speaking of female critics.
Right. I thought that was funny, since NBC News' Today Show had paid her, wasn't it them? Paid her so much money.
NBC overall. I think it came out to like
$600,000 a year. I don't remember one report she did. If you do, please help me. But I have nothing against Chelsea Clinton. I always treated her like a Fabergé egg when she was in the White House as a teenager. We'll see if Barron Trump gets the same respect. So far, he hasn't.
And
from many people in the media.
Absolutely should.
She should leave me out of it. And she should know, she and her network should have called me. NBC News has called in a lather, breathlessly apologizing to me. But why did the reporter who texted me at 6:32 a.m. this morning asking me about a different story for the Today Show and said, for the Today Show, please comment on this, why didn't he ask me about what I had said the night before on his network? I turned on the Today Show this morning, and I'm being attacked. And then there's an apology retroactively after 5 million people see that, and all the haters on Twitter who should get jobs in the Donald Trump administration. They will be available to you soon. Give me a call.
You told Chris Wallace, talking about the campaign and all the journalists and the pontificators who utterly got the election wrong, that none of these people have been fired. Do you think news organizations should fire some people who got it wrong?
Well, how about just admitting, getting out of the denial, grief, and anger stages and getting on with acceptance? But part of the acceptance has to be some introspection and soul searching. I mean, they were wrong up until 1 a.m. on November 9th, and it was the road to 270, you have no path. We have all the clips. I know people are wondering if I'm talking about them, but so let it be a Lord of the Flies situation where they don't know if I'm talking about them. And even in the case of this massacre nonsense, where I corrected it right away and clarified it, which I'm sure it'll live on for a week, I didn't mention the people by name. I didn't mention by name the prominent editor of a very successful liberal website last night, saying, I'm going to write a whole story about your tweet about the Holocaust. I said, did I tweet about the Holocaust? And he said, oh my God, it was a fake account. And he said, go on carrying about, helping the president. And I'll hang I don't say his name because I don't want him to get what I get, which are death threats and haters and people mentioning my kids by name and showing up at my house. It just seems to me that the presumptively negative coverage and the snarkiness that was put upon Donald Trump, the candidate, the nominee, the president-elect, and now the president, all looks the same to me. There's never been a deep breath of some of these networks and cable stations saying, you know, he's the president now, and we ought to cover him as such. We ought to show the respect and the deference to the office and try to get it right. I see very little of that. I'm open to that, folks. You know where to find me, off of Twitter. Call me, email me, text me. But look, Chelsea Clinton attacking me. Really, Chelsea? Because your mom said Texas and Georgia and Arizona were turning blue, so you went and spent all this money there, and you ignored Wisconsin and Michigan, and we did not. And we won them, and Donald Trump won.
You mentioned women's magazines. Cosmopolitan, and a relatively sympathetic profile of you, had passages like this. How does Conway, loving mom, devoted friend, appealing person in close quarters, square her conscience with what she signed on to do? Explain the actions of a man who's been accused of fraud, sexual assault, collusion with Russia, leveraged the hate-mongering movement of the white supremacist alt-right.
Because I know the full measure of the man, and people should also pay attention to who he is and what all the great he's already doing for this country and will do for all Americans. He will create. He's already creating more jobs and keeping jobs here, boosting wages. He's already making good on campaign promises.
But you get that a lot. You seem like a nice person. How do you work for this president?
Very easily. I love the man and I respect him tremendously, and I know that he and his family have sacrificed so much for him to be president of the United States.
Kellyanne Conway, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.